All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about something pretty amazing. You know how AI has already started to make a big difference in healthcare, like with analyzing images and stuff? Well, imagine an AI that can actually diagnose illnesses. And not only that, but it can explain how it came to that diagnosis, just like a doctor would.
Yeah, that's exactly what's so exciting about this research paper. It's called HuatuoGPT-o1 Towards Medical Complex Reasoning with LLMs. And they're basically saying they've built an AI that can handle the kind of complex medical reasoning that, until now, only human doctors could really do.
That's to be clear. They didn't just feed this AI a ton of medical textbooks and call it a day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the name itself, HuatuoGPT-o1, it's a reference to a famous ancient Chinese physician. So I'm guessing they took a bit of a different approach.
You got it. They actually used real medical exam questions to train this AI, like the kind of questions you'd see on a medical licensing exam.
Wow. So they really put it through med school, huh? But instead of multiple choice questions, they gave the AI open-ended problems to solve.
Exactly. The paper even gives an example. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. It says, a 30-year-old woman recently traveled to India and now presents with shaking, chills, fevers, headaches, pallor, and jaundiced sclera. What is the most severe complication of this condition? That's a pretty tough one, even for some human doctors, I'd say.
Yeah, no kidding. So how did they make sure the AI was actually thinking like a doctor and not just, spitting out facts it had memorized?
Well, that's where the training process gets really interesting. They used a two-stage approach. And the first stage is all about teaching the AI to think out loud, so to speak.
Interesting.
They call it chain of thought, or a COTI. And it basically involves the AI explaining its reasoning process step by step.
So showing its work.
Exactly. Like you'd expect from a medical student explaining their diagnosis. And if the AI gets the answer wrong, it actually has to go back and revise its reasoning using specific strategies, like backtracking or exploring new paths.
Wow. So it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about learning how to think critically and solve problems.
Exactly. They really wanted to make sure this AI could reason like a human doctor.
That's pretty amazing. And what about the second stage of training?
Ah, yes. Stage 2 is all about reinforcement learning. Basically, it's like giving the AI a gold star for a correct diagnosis, or, maybe a needs improvement note for a wrong one.
So they're using positive and negative reinforcement to help the AI learn.
Exactly. And this helps the AI figure out what kind of reasoning leads to the best results.
I see. So it's like the AI is going through rounds of medical board exams, constantly being tested and improving its performance. Okay, so after all this intense training, how did HuatuoGPT-o1 actually perform? Did it pass medical school?
Let's just say, this AI didn't just pass, it aced the exams.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We got to dive deeper into those results. Because if this AI is as good as they say, it could have huge implications for the future of medicine. All right, so we left off with this AI, HuatuoGPT-o1, basically acing its medical school exams. But what did these tests actually look like? And just how well did it do?
Well, they tested it on a bunch of different medical benchmarks. Some of them are actually really tough, even for other AIs that are designed specifically for medicine.
Oh, wow. So, they didn't go easy on it at all. What were some of the things that really stood out in terms of its performance?
Well, one thing that really impressed me was how well it did on this benchmark called MMLU. It tests multitask accuracy across a bunch of different subjects.
Right.
And HuatuoGPT-o1 scored higher than any other publicly available large language model, even ones that were trained on, massive amounts of medical data.
So it's not just a good medical AI. It's like one of the best AIs out there, period.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
And another thing that was really interesting was how well it did on benchmarks that require more than just knowing facts.
Okay, so what kind of benchmarks are we talking about?
So there's this one called GPQA. It's designed to test reasoning skills, like the ability to actually apply knowledge to solve problems.
Got it. So it's not just a walking medical encyclopedia. It's actually using that knowledge to figure things out.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But did both stages of the training actually contribute to this? Could it have done just as well with only one stage of training?
That's a great question. And the researchers actually tested that. And what they found was both stages were important. But the second stage, the reinforcement learning part, that really seemed to boost the AI's performance significantly.
Interesting. So it's having a mentor there to guide the AI.
Yeah.
And help it learn from its mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of mentors, remember how they used that medical verifier, that GPT-4 model, to like double check the AI's answers?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That was definitely a key part of the process.
I thought so too.
It was crucial to have such a high-performing verifier because it gave the AI really reliable feedback.
Right. So it could actually learn effectively.
Exactly. And this actually raises a really interesting point about AI development in general.
Ooh, what's that?
Well, as AI models become more and more sophisticated, the methods we use to train them also need to evolve.
I see. So in this case, using another really advanced AI as the teacher turned out to be a really successful strategy.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about building smarter AI. It's also about building better ways to teach them.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. But let's be realistic here. Even with these amazing results, this AI isn't going to replace human doctors anytime soon, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. This research is still very much in its early stages, and the paper itself makes it clear that HuatuoGPT-o1 is not ready to be used in a real clinical setting just yet.
Okay.
But what it does show is that this approach, this idea of teaching AI to reason like a doctor, it's incredibly promising.
It's like a glimpse into the future of healthcare. It's really exciting.
For sure.
But one thing that really struck me about this research was that they didn't just stop there. They wanted to see if this approach could work in different cultural contexts too.
Right.
Yeah.
Could this medical school for AI thing, could it be adapted to a different language and a different healthcare system?
Yeah, exactly. So did they take the AI abroad for a semester?
Uh-huh. Sort of.
Yeah.
They actually trained a separate model called HuatuoGPT-o1 7BZH, and they used the same two-stage process. But this time, they used a data set of Chinese medical licensing exam questions.
Wow. So a whole different curriculum.
Yeah, basically.
How did it do?
It did amazingly well. It actually outperformed other Chinese language models on a whole range of medical benchmarks.
So this approach to training AI, it's not limited to just one language or one healthcare system.
Exactly.
This is huge.
It is. It really is. And it makes you wonder, if an AI can learn to reason like a doctor and master all that complex medical knowledge, what other professions could benefit from this?
That's a great question. And it's something to really think about as we move into the final part of our deep dive. We'll be back in a bit to talk about the potential impact of this research on other fields and what it all means for the future of AI. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about this incredible AI, HuatuoGPT-o1, and how researchers were able to teach it to think like a doctor. And it wasn't just barely scraping by. It was acing those medical exams, even beating out other AIs designed for medicine.
Yeah, it's really remarkable how it's not just, memorizing textbooks. It's actually understanding the information and using it to solve those complex medical problems.
Exactly. And not only that, but the researchers also proved that this whole approach to training, it can be adapted to different languages, different cultures.
Right, that whole idea of medical school for AI. It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Which brings us back to that question we were talking about before.
If an AI can learn to, master medical reasoning, all that complex knowledge, the problem solving, what other fields could this really change?
It's a question that makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What are the possibilities here?
So let's break it down. What makes medical reasoning so difficult? You need tons of knowledge, right? You have to analyze all this information, think about different options, make decisions, and a lot of times those decisions have really high stakes.
Yeah, it's a field that requires a lot of careful thinking, a lot of responsibility.
Exactly. And those skills, they're valuable in a lot of different professions.
So where else could we see this kind of AI having a real impact?
Well, law immediately comes to mind. Imagine an AI that can analyze legal documents, look for precedents, build arguments, just like a human lawyer would.
That could be a game changer. It could help lawyers build better cases, even help judges make better decisions.
Precisely. And what about finance? Think of all the data involved in investing, understanding market trends, assessing risks. It's incredibly complex.
That AI that could analyze all that data, spot patterns, make recommendations, that could completely change how we invest.
Definitely. And let's not forget about education. Imagine AI tutors that can adapt to individual learning styles, give personalized feedback, tailor lessons to each student's needs.
That would make education so much more effective, more accessible to everyone.
It really would. These are just a few examples, of course. There are so many potential applications for this technology. It's really exciting.
It makes you wonder what the future of work will look like, how AI will change the way we do, well, just about everything.
And as we develop these AIs, these incredible reasoning machines, we have to think about the ethical implications too.
Right. We have to use this technology responsibly, make sure it benefits everyone.
Exactly. That's a crucial part of this whole conversation.
And, like we've seen with HuatuoGPT-o1, this is really just the beginning. We're still in the early stages of figuring out what AI can do.
It's a really exciting time to be following all of this. Who knows what amazing breakthroughs are just around the corner.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into HuatuoGPT-o1 and the future of AI in medicine and beyond.
We hope you found this episode interesting, and maybe it gave you some food for thought about the evolving world of artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions, because that's what makes life interesting, and that's what drives innovation.